Oh, I didn't see you there. You caught me investigating a game from Phoenix Games, one of my absolute favourite publishers, as you can see from the glorious and wonderful front cover that you see here. Sorry about that, you caught me mid-glance. What I'm going to be showing you today are three games which I absolutely love for the PSP. Now, I have to stress, these games, like a lot of the really amazing PSP games from that really amazing console, because it is, that I'm going to pick up on today, are games, I have to stress, three games that originally came out. Ooh, cheeky, I almost peeked and showed you one then. Three games which I love, but they are three games which originally appeared on the PSP, because most of the games were then ported, especially these ones, because they were pretty top-notch, so they were then later ported to other formats. So, let's kick things off with one that I almost showed you earlier on. That is Siphon Filter Dark Mirror. The Siphon Filter games came out in the late 90s after the Metal Gear Solid game came out, and were action-adventure games. They were kind of stealth, not as stealth orientated as Metal Gear Solid. They were more action-focused, and the first three came out on the PS1. After a little bit of time, they then came out on the PS2, and they weren't that great on the PS2, but then we came to this one, so they were given one last chance on the PSP, and actually, it is a pretty solid third-person shooter. Now, the main thing is, I was very worried getting into this game initially, because the PSP doesn't have two analog sticks, and for a really fluid, great shooter, you need to have two analog sticks, in my opinion. What this game does is it gets around that by using one of the analog sticks as a control, and then for a second analog stick, it uses the triangle, square, X and circle buttons as essentially a pretend analog stick. So then you use the two shoulder buttons for shooting and things like that, and then you've got your D-pad for other buttons as well. The game is pretty solid, really cool, and I would really recommend picking it up and checking it out. Same with all of the Siphon Filter games. I have to stress as well, this then got a sequel, which was then ported to the PS2 as well, but the key main one is that this came out on the PSP first. And I would absolutely love Siphon Filter games to make another appearance. The way it was ended in the next game after this is still paining me today, because it's left on a cliffhanger. So I would really recommend picking it up. It is really cool. It's a nice little solid third-person action game. The next one on my list, because we spoke about Metal Gear Solid, has to be Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Now, this has been ported to things like the Xbox 360, the PS3. You know, you can probably pick it up relatively fair, but the game initially came out for the PSP. Now, it is absolutely incredible how they managed to essentially pack all of that Metal Gear experience into the PSP. And the main thing is that on the PSP versions like this, this is where you start to see things like the building of your own base, and having to craft things and capture people to work in your base in the research or the medical departments and things like that. That's where this really started. That's where you first start to see that kind of action. And it's incredible how the best thing is, because it has been ported to the formats, it's very important in the overall Metal Gear Solid saga. So I really would recommend picking it up. There is another Metal Gear Solid game. Well, there's actually a couple, because we've got the Metal Gear Acid games. There are two of those. They are card-based, turn-based games. That is still action, but it is card-based in how you move and fight and things like that. They're pretty cool, but not particularly Metal Gear Solid games. They are good games, but I wouldn't necessarily say great Metal Gear Solid games. You won't get that same experience on there. And then there's Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. It's their first foray into a true Metal Gear Solid experience on the PSP. It's still a little bit fuzzy in the overall Metal Gear Solid saga whether or not that's a canon game. So if what happens in that game is official and everything moves forward, I believe it is. But by all means, if I'm incorrect, clear that up in the comments below, guys, and let me know. But it is absolutely phenomenal. The amount that they jam-pack into it is amazing. It's such a touching, personal story, and a really, really cool one, that they managed to get the true Metal Gear Solid experience on there. If you're a fan of Monster Hunter as well, it does have some really crazy, cool crossovers with the Monster Hunter series as well. So one that I would well worth recommending to you guys and picking up. And last and certainly not least is one game which absolutely warms my cockles. Yes, you heard that right, my cockles. Every single time I see it and every single time I play it, and I just can't help but smile. And of course, that game is Loco Roco. So this game is a really cool, colourful, vibrant game where you play as the world. As you can see from that, that's the graphical style of it. In the game, you play as, like I say, the world. And what you have to do is to protect the Loco Roco in the game. You see these little things. You have to get them to the end of the level. So it's a little bit of a puzzle platformer game. And in the game, there are some evil creatures that are floating around, and you have to save the Loco Roco from those. The Loco Roco themselves come in all different colours and all different styles. The classic one you see here is the orange one. And they are essentially little jelly type creatures that blob along. And what you can do is, as you go through, there are a certain amount of Loco Roco in the game, in the level, and you have to collect as many as you can and get to the end. The more you collect, the more of a big blob they become, as you can see there, and the bigger it gets. What you then can do as well is break them down into their little individual Loco Roco, rather than having a big one. To fit through small gaps and things like that. But as I say, because you play as the world, what you have to do is tilt and move the level rather than moving the Loco Roco themselves to get to the exit. So it's a pretty cool, pretty funky one. Now, the reason why I picked this up is because it's so nice and cute. And in the game, the Loco Roco sing. So as I've said here, we have an orange one. They're all different colours, ranging from red to green. And they all have different voices, and they all have a different song and a different theme and style. And the really cute thing is that in the game, what happens is, if you leave them to their own devices, they will just start singing. And it's so cute and absolutely adorable. I absolutely love it. There is as well a follow-up. There is Loco Roco 2 and another downloadable one for the PS3. A really small, cheap, single level. What I would say is, personally, as great as Loco Roco 2 is, it's not quite as cute as the first one, and it also tries to add a few more elements to give it a bit more of an edge and to spice up the gameplay. And personally, for me, I much prefer the original first game. It can be very simple. Now, you do have to go around and find bits of houses for some other little characters that are in the game and some other elements. But yeah, the second one kind of tries to complicate it and change things up a little bit. But I prefer the simple experience of Loco Roco, the original one. The soundtrack is phenomenal. Like I say, I would well worth listening to that where you can, and definitely pick up the first game. It was eventually ported to the PS4, where you can get a physical Asian copy, or you can just download the game. I'm fairly sure that it will be fairly cheap as well. So that's my top 3 games that I absolutely love for the PSP. It's not exhaustive, so if there are more games I absolutely love, and what I want to know is what games you love, so please let me know. Give me a shout what you think, if you've played them, if you're not a fan, if you are a fan, could you be a fan? Let me know, please. I urge you to get in contact with me in the comments below, and let's get some chats going, guys, and talk about some of those hidden gems that are out for the PSP and other formats. So I am Big King Badger. Thank you very much for joining me on my magical mystery tour of my loved games for the PSP. I'll see you next time, guys. Thank you very much, and goodbye.